निरञ्जनं नित्यम् अनन्तरूपं भक्तानुकम्पाधृतविग्रहं वै ईशावतारं परमेशमीड्यं तं रामकृष्णं शिरसा नमामः. Namaste and welcome to our Saturday morning session on guided meditation for beginners. As usual, we will begin with our meditation session. Let us all sit up straight, keeping our back, neck and head in a relaxed upright position. Visualize your whole body to be strong and healthy. Direct your attention to various limbs of the body, and as you do so, visualize that each part is strong and healthy. Focus on your feet, ankles, calf, knees and thighs, back, stomach, chest, the shoulders, arms and elbows, your hands, neck, face, the head, and the whole body. Visualize it to be strong and healthy and a fit instrument for self-realization. Now focus on your breath. Visualize that as you breathe in a pure light that revitalizes your whole body, every cell of your body, every corner of your mind. As you breathe in, visualize that you breathe in light. As you breathe out, visualize that you breathe out all stress and negativity. Breathe in and out in a slow, deep, rhythmic manner, thrice. Let us pray for the welfare of all beings throughout the universe. May the universal cosmic consciousness, which is the source of this whole universe and all its living beings, which is of the nature of absolute existence, absolute knowledge and absolute bliss, absolute purity, beauty and goodness, which resides in the heart of all beings, may the Divine Being attract our minds from the external world to the internal source of all excellences. May our minds seek the inner joy, inner beauty and purity. Send out your prayers to your right. Visualize your thought currents flowing out forever, touching and uplifting all it comes in contact with. Send your prayers to your left, in front, behind, above, below, and in all directions. With you as the center, radiating a prayer for the welfare of all beings. Now withdraw your mind from the external world and focus it within you, in the center of your heart. Visualize that your whole body is strong and steady and luminous, pure and perfect. Visualize that surrounding and interpenetrating the physical body is the mental body, luminous and shiny, calm and steady, serene and peaceful. And finer than the mental body, visualize the body of knowledge, illuminated by the inner spiritual consciousness. And beyond that is the ocean of consciousness, the Atman, the Brahman. In that ocean of consciousness, visualize a beautiful lotus, fully bloomed, full of fragrance and freshness. Visualize the flame in the center of that lotus, steady like a lamp kept in a windless place, spreading its radiance in all directions. Illumine your whole being through and through. You may replace that flame with a divine form of your choice. Imagine him or her to be live, full of grace, eager to shower his or her spiritual gifts on you. Visualize that the light radiating out of the divine within you to be the light of spiritual knowledge that dispels the darkness of ignorance. It's the light of absolute purity that fills you with holiness through and through. It's a light of supreme peace that fills you with serenity and tranquility. It is the light of absolute bliss that fills you with joy and inner contentment. It's the inner light of strength that strengthens you spiritually, morally, emotionally, intellectually, and physically. Visualize that living presence at the core of your being and feel your proximity and closeness and feel the radiance and the warmth of the divine presence within you. Focus your whole mind on His presence and repeat the mantra that has been given by your spiritual teacher or the Gayatri mantra or the Supreme Shabda Brahman Om, or if you wish, you may repeat Om Namo Bhagavate Ramakrishna Namah. Keep a watchful eye on the repetition process, ensuring that the mind does not wander away anywhere. And if it does, gently bring it to the divine within you. And keep your mind on that divine form and the repetition of the mantra, knowing that the divine and the mantra are one and the same. Asato ma sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityorma amritam gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. So after your meditation for at least half an hour that you do regularly morning and evening, you will conclude your meditation by offering the results of your meditation to the Divine within you. Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. Offering the results of our meditation. This is called Ishwarapranidhana, dedication and surrender to the Divine. We have been discussing the first two steps of the Yoga Sutras as taught by Maharishi Patanjali. The first two steps are called Yama and Niyama. These are basically the fundamental moral and ethical disciplines that all of us have to practice throughout the day, throughout our lifetimes, because these form the foundation of our spiritual life. The Yama, that means the observance or the restraints that we must practice are non-violence, ahimsa, satya, truthfulness, asteya, not stealing anything that belongs to others. Brahmacharya is the practice of chastity, of control of the senses, of continence. Aparigraha, no receiving of gifts from anyone. These are the 5 practices of Yama. And then we discussed some of the practices of Niyama, the observances. And these were Socha, purity of thought, word and deed. Santosha, contentment. Contentment with the basic requirements for your physical existence. Discontent with your spiritual progress. And therefore, that will intensify into what is called Vyakulta, that yearning for the Divine, that feeling that life is passing away, every day is turning into weeks, into months, into years. The real purpose of our coming into this world, that has not been achieved. When this idea takes hold of you, then you will find that the mind naturally begins to prioritize this, and you will be spending more time in your spiritual disciplines and giving less time to the worldly pursuits. So, Santosha. Then we discussed about Tapasya, Tapa. Tapa means austerity, and we said that it comes from the word Tapa means heat, that which generates heat. Friction generates heat. That means if the natural tendency of the senses is to go outside, we restrain that outgoing tendency, that will be a struggle and a fight, so to say. And that generates a fire which purifies and burns the dross of the mind and the body. Just like gold is found in earth, but it's all mixed with the soil. You have to take this soil and put it in a blast furnace, remove the impurities, and you are left with a pure piece of gold, which can be again buried into this earth for 1,000 years, but it will not lose its purity. When you take it out, give it a wash, it is shining. Likewise, our mind has become polluted by the worldly thoughts, so to say. And by the practice of tapasya, we burn the impurities of the mind so that the pure mind, Shuddhaman, shines in its own beautiful glory. That's the purpose of tapasya. And it can be in different forms. Tapasya can be utilized as a wonderful tool to increase the willpower. You see, all of us know what to do. All of us make the resolve to meditate or do good things. But when difficulties come or the temptations come in life, then we find that the willpower is not so strong. at some little difficulty or some excuse, it will give up that pursuit. So the difference between a strong-minded, resolute person who makes a resolution and achieves it, and one who fails is one who makes those resolutions but cannot carry out through. The difference is in this willpower. And this is what true education is out, according to Swami Vivekananda. He said the training by which the current and expression of will is brought under control and made fruitful is education. And that doesn't mean going to a school or university or students in school uniform only. Life itself is a great school in which every activity forms an opportunity for us to strengthen our willpower, provided we are awake to that idea that this is not some humdrum, boring job or something like that. It's an opportunity for me to test and exercise my willpower. So before you engage in that, you should have that positive idea. It is not about pleasing somebody. It's not only about money that the job you're doing. You have a spiritual goal, and this particular activity, which could be your profession or responsibility or duty, is a means, an exercise by which you will build that wonderful willpower by regularly exercising it. Exercise power comes by exercising, just like you go to the gymnasium and you exercise the strength that is within us manifests. Likewise, there are various mental exercises, emotional exercises by which we exercise and manifest the power of the mind and the emotions, have control over them. So if you take it in this way, then every activity around the world in your everyday life could be re-engineered to your advantage for a spiritual goal. That would be this art of converting every activity into a spiritual discipline. If you don't have that, then you will go through the whole process, get your material things, but not the spiritual goal, the benefit out of it. So likewise, when people want to develop this willpower through tapasya, it could be like it's Ekadasi day and you would like to fast. So many people on that day will not take any water and food, and that's be an end of it. And they say, I have fasted, I have observed Ekadasi. Of course, you'll find that physically you'll be benefited, your body will be lighter, digestion will be good, you will feel healthier. But does it really bring any spiritual benefit? You know, as a person who is starving is also fasting, not by choice. But does he become spiritually illumined? No. So the word is upavasa. Upa means near. Vasa means to be positioned, to live in. Upavasa means keeping the mind close to the divine. That's the whole purpose of it. And the reason why we fast is that if you have a nice meal, then you'll feel drowsy in your meditation, you'll feel heavy in your stomach, you cannot focus. The mind is too much focused on the body and the stomach. So on that particular day, if you need, you will eat a light meal, maybe take some fruits and flowers, but the main discipline is to keep the mind on board. That is the test. So wake up in the morning and do your japa and meditation. During the day, you will sing your bhajans and read scriptural books. And in the midst of the activity, while your hands are working, let your mind be repeating the mantra as much as possible. And the success of how good your meditation, your fasting or upavasa was, is at the end of the day, you will take count and say, how much of my mind was dwelling on the divine or spiritual ideas throughout the day. If that has been happening, then yes, it has been a good practice of Ekadasi. So it's upavasa, keeping the mind close to the divine. The divine is within us, not outside. In the meditation, we visualize His divine presence inside us. This physical body is there, is a material, something that we all know. But we have a mental body, which is finer than this physical body, more luminous, full of beautiful ideas and all those sentiments, emotions are there. And even finer than that is our knowledge body, which is the source of intelligence. Beyond that is the Atman, the infinite ocean of consciousness. And God, the divine, is that ocean of consciousness. We are a wave in that ocean of consciousness, but become identified with these three bodies: the causal body, the subtle body, the gross body. And this embodied being is called the Jiva, who has a sense of belongingness or identification with this physical entity. That is my I and mine idea comes in there. This is called ignorance. And knowledge is to be detached from this mindness of things, non-attached to all things outside, also detached from this identification with this body idea or the mind idea, and to be identified with our spiritual essence. That is called self-realization, God realization, nirvana, Bhagwan love, and all these similar words are there to express that experience that were obtained or achieved by these seekers of truth, whom we call the rishis, the men of realization, and the teachings that they give us from the scriptures. And these are to be understood and practiced with the goal that we too will have that particular experience. And what's the result of that experience? Well, all ignorance disappears. Just like when the sun rises in the morning, all the darkness disappears. Likewise, when the sun of the spiritual Atman awakens within you, all confusion and ignorance disappears. It's a wonderful experience. All suffering disappears. You are filled with that supreme bliss, not an iota of any form of suffering. These are what all the great teachers you see in the life of Buddha, Sri Ramakrishna, they are full of bliss, and they radiate that bliss all around. And those who come in that circle, they also feel surcharged with that bliss. So that is potentially in all of us. But we experience a little bit as sense enjoyments. The infinite bliss is curtailed by these layers of the body, so to say. As this body and mind becomes pure, the light inside shines more and more and more. It's just like a light bulb that has not been cleansed. Even the flame or the tungsten is burning and the element is there, but the dust is preventing the light from coming out. So as you cleanse the bulb from the outside, the light shines out more. Likewise, the body and the mind becomes polluted by too much entanglement with the external world, and the world conditions the mind, and these layers form which obstruct the shining of the inner light. So that's why tapasya has to be performed not once or twice or once on Ekadasi day, as a regular discipline to strengthen the willpower, and through that, then as the willpower becomes stronger, you will find that it will help you in your meditation, because during meditation, when you're trying to keep the mind on God or the repetition of the mantra, that strong willpower will enable you to be anchored in that. Otherwise, a little bit of attention and then it runs away somewhere. So that's why in our everyday life, we should practice some form of tapasya, which is a mental form of spiritual, of harnessing the energy within us, so to say. Then we talked about Swadhyaya. Swadhyaya means study of the scriptures, which are the recordings and teachings of those who have realized the truth. It could be some rishi, just like a scientist records his findings of the medical or physical world. The rishis are the spiritual seekers who explored the inner dimension of man, and they also recorded their experiences, which can be like a map and a compass for us to guide. And now and then God himself incarnates in a human body as a world teacher, and he gives these universal teachings, which are the Bible, the Gita, and in the modern age, Sri Ramakrishna's Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. You'll find that just by one reading, you'll find that you don't need to go into very complicated Sanskrit and all that. Your ideas about spiritual life, what is God realization, all that become very clear very quickly, and then you can engage into the sadhana part of it, the discipline part of it. So we need to read that and study that, not reading, but more studying, taking an idea in the morning, maybe a small thing, but thinking about it in the day. What does it mean? Churn it in the mind all the time, and you'll find that as the mind keeps on rubbing, as the glass becomes clear, so to say, more light will come and suddenly you will feel, oh, that was what it meant. But as the mind becomes purer and purer, you'll find that the same teaching will express itself in greater and greater clarity. And you can test that out. For example, if you start studying the Bhagavad Gita, or you compare what did you understand 20 years back or 10 years back from the same verse. And if you've been practicing your spiritual disciplines, then you'll find that the same verses mean or reveal themselves with greater clarity. It's not that the verses have changed. Your whole mind has become purified because you have been practicing your spiritual disciplines. So, we need to revisit these scriptures again and again so that we try to get the original message which the teacher tried to impart to us through the particular verse or the particular teaching. So, Swadhyaya. It also means repetition of the mantra, japa. Okay, because the mantra purifies the mind. So, if you repeat the mantra that has been given by a spiritual teacher with great devotion and concentration, not mechanically. Mind should not be engaged in the external world. On the right hand side, you are taking the mala and simply absent-mindedly, mechanically go. That will not do much good. Your whole mind should be resonating with that mantra. The mantra is not simply some words. It's this spiritual energy embedded and encoded in those words, so to say. The word is the gross expression of it. Just like I speak something, a word comes out of my mouth, it travels to you through the ear, but I can still have the word in my mind. I have not expressed it. So that is the subtle energy that is there. I might choose to express it or not. That energy even comes from a deeper source, the spiritual source. So the word that we hear expressed by the physical body is called Vaikhari. Vaikhara means the body. The body has been used to articulate it. But before it is expressed, it's in my mind, I'm thinking about it, the inner talking is going on, so to say. That inner level, unexpressed, unspoken speech is called Madhyama, the middle part of it. It hasn't taken or hasn't become gross expression as yet. But beyond that, before even the thinking process comes, it has got its very subtle causal part of it. It's called Pashyanti. Pashya means just to get a simple glimmer of it. Then it becomes a thought, and then it becomes a word like that. Beyond that, even the Pashyanti is what is called Paravak. Vak means the Vak Shakti. And in a personified form, we call it Divine Mother Saraswati, Vak Devi. So when we worship Divine Mother Saraswati, we are actually worshipping that cosmic energy in the subtlest form, which is the source out of which all thoughts, words, and ideas have come. All knowledge has come. All Vedas have come. All material world also has come because everything is that we feel as tangible matter is only a vibration that is energy materialized, concretized, so to say. So that mantra is really an expression of that subtle energy at the depth of our being. And the supreme mantra is the Shabda Brahman Om. So we repeat the mantra Om with great concentration and alertness, and you should feel the syllabus of the mantra, Om, not rushing through that. Feel it, how it sparks off, it grows up, it grows and rolls forth into an end. And you keep a focus on that tracking. Let the whole mind be filled with that mantra and mantra alone. You'll find that as you focus your whole mind onto that and repeat with great concentration and devotion, that mantra becomes infused by your mental energy. It begins to resonate with it. And as it begins to resonate, it will feel an awakening and expression of that inner joy that is embedded in that mantra, so to say. So that is the whole idea, that with full devotion and concentration, knowing that the mantra is not different from that supreme consciousness, the absolute, your chosen ideal or God. They are same, identical. So sometimes you can visualize that form with great concentration. The deity is seated in your heart. You can visualize the various limbs, the body, the whole body, and this radiance emanating from it. But sometimes you find it's easier to concentrate on the mantra only, because you can't be concentrating on both of it. So initially you visualize his presence, and then like a person is there and his name is there. You can call him by that name and the person will respond, so to say. So the name of the divine is the mantra. And the idea is that you will call him with such love and affection and devotion that it becomes a living presence and begins to respond to you. So that is the whole idea of doing japa with great devotion and concentration. And as you do that, that spiritual awakening begins to take place. And at some stage, by the grace of the divine, you might also have the vision of the divine form, living and awake, and you can communicate. That would be something wonderful. That would be a step in the process of spiritual awakening. So that is Swadhyaya. Study of the scriptures regularly with great devotion and perseverance, and also doing your japa, repetition of the mantra. We have said that there are some common mantras like the Gayatri mantra that many people know. You can repeat that. You can repeat the Omkara Shabda Brahman. Or if you are very, very serious as a spiritual discipline, you should get a proper mantra from a spiritual teacher, because those mantras have some spiritual power that come through a spiritual tradition. And there are certain parts of the mantras, the beach mantra and all those things are given to that. We would not give that. You need to get it from your own spiritual teacher. It cannot be given to you on like this. So it's a very sacred knowledge and a spiritual energy that has to be systematically and in a very sanctified way transmitted from the teacher to the student, just like a burning fire is transmitted from one piece of wood to the other. If the wood is dry, it will catch the fire. Likewise, the spiritual energy that is harnessed by spiritual realized soul, incarnation of God, that can be transmitted through generations of spiritual teachers. And if one can receive that lit fire, so to say, it expedites or fast tracks one spiritual progress. So that's about Swadhyaya. And culminating all of that is called Ishwarapranidhana, dedication to God, surrender to God. Whatever we do, whatever we are, everything is anchored in that reality of that consciousness. This whole universe and all the worlds and the lokas, as they say, Bhurva, Swaha, Mahajana, Tapa, Brahmaloka, all these are various layers and coverings, so to say, but all of them exist because of the absolute existence, which we call the Supreme Being, Brahman. That absolute is infinite, or absolute Brahman is absolute knowledge, absolute existence, absolute bliss, absolute beauty, freedom, purity, and all that we cherish and we are trying to express and maybe seeking in the outside world is really within us at the spiritual dimension. It's not a thing only, but it's a living, palpitating consciousness, alive, more alive than you and I are, so to say. Everything is conscious on account of that consciousness. Everywhere we see, every expression, knowledge that we feel is because of that inner knowledge. Every bit of joy or happiness that we feel is because of that inner bliss of the Brahman. So we are because the divine is, so to say. We means this body, mind, entity, individual that we call ourselves so to be. That means the wave is there because the ocean is there. Without the ocean, there cannot be a wave. So when the ocean understands its original source, that I have come out of, and the wave understands its original source as the ocean, and that it has come out of the ocean, it is sustained by the ocean, it will go back into the ocean, and that energy that is making the wave move is also coming from the ocean. Likewise, if I am always aware that this body and the mind and the eye sense and the activity that is happening and the senses that are functioning and the mind that is thinking and the understanding that is happening and the enjoyments that we feel all happen because that ocean of consciousness is within me all the time, here and now, but I don't experience it because I'm too much entangled in a very gross way, working through this body, working through the senses. How do I withdraw the mind, turn it inwards so that I cut off that outgoing tendency and connect with that great ocean? Merge the wave into the ocean, so to say. You might think, I have lost, what happened to the wave? The wave has become the ocean. You don't lose anything, you have become that infinite being. That is what happens in Samadhi. The ego, I sense, disappears in the ocean. And you feel, I am that Brahman, that infinite being. Brahman comes from the Sanskrit word Brihat, means the infinite, the vast, the limitless. So in It's inexpressible, but with the help of some words like absolute, existence, knowledge, bliss, they try to give an idea of that particular experience. Just like a wave is trying to tell about the ocean, how deep it is, how vast it is. It just can say it's so big like that. It cannot express it. But whatever it is, it can be experienced. It cannot be expressed, but it can be experienced. So the essence is that we as individual beings are only a small part of that infinity. That living consciousness is present there all the time. Our minds are directed outside, not inwards. Therefore, we don't establish that close or enough connection with it. And spiritual life is a conscious effort to turn this mind inwards and feel that presence and identification with it, being one with that ocean of consciousness. And that is called samadhi. So Ishwarapranidhana is that spirit of constant dedication and surrender of ourselves to that divine within. Feeling yourself that we are not orphans in this world, that we don't know where we have come from or where we are going and why we are here. But yes, in ignorance, we don't know that there is a being behind us who knows everything, who is our source, our father, mother, protector, guide, friend, well-wisher, and everything. And if we approach him, call upon him, he is more than eager and happy to respond to all our needs, spiritual needs. So when we approach him, we should not ask for some material things of this world. Give me some food, clothing, and that he will provide without our need. We will seek for spiritual knowledge, vivek, spiritual discrimination, vairagya, dispassion from the world, devotion, attraction to him, pray for freedom, for spiritual things. And we'll find that the divine also responds to that. Pray to the divine to hold our hands from within, so to say, and guide our mind towards itself and not delude us by projecting it out to things of the world and making that appear to be attractive. To reveal itself that it is the source of all attraction behind all the apparent attractions of the outside world. And with this prayer, if you approach him, you'll find that by his grace, this mind will begin to awaken and understand the unreality of this world, the transitory nature of this world, the impermanence of the world, the coverings that are there. And when that mind wakes up, then the sheep maybe thinks that understands intellectually that I'm aligned, but then it has to experience that alignment, so to say. Awakening happens with the realization. So we have gone through this last 22 classes, guided meditation for beginners. It has been a long session series going on and on and on, but in great detail we have tried to understand what are the stages and what is the process of meditation for beginners. The detailed instructions will be given to you when you receive your spiritual diksha or initiation from your own spiritual teacher, which will form your core spiritual practice. This is just for those out there who would like to, in these trying times, to have a greater control and grip on their mind, be more masters of the mind, because when the mind is not trained, when it's not in our control, it can become our worst enemy. And if it's controlled, disciplined and focused and connected to the source that's within us, then it's our best friend. It can entangle us in this world, or it can lead us to freedom. We have to use this wonderful tool that has been given to us and not misuse it or abuse it if we want to attain to that goal of self-realization or freedom. So with this, we have gone through the whole progress, 8 steps of meditation. Yama, Niyama, we talked about asana, how to sit down in a proper posture. We talked about breathing in a very simple form, pranayama. And then we talked about pratyahara, withdrawing the mind from the external world and focusing on the divine within us. We talked about how to visualize the divine presence, how to feel its presence, living presence, and how to commune with it through the process of meditation, which is visualization and repetition of the mantra, and how we strengthen that connection by repeatedly doing it morning and evening. Just like you give a physical bath, likewise you need to give a mental bath, and spiritual disciplines give that mental bath and remove the impurities that we acquire when we engage with the external world. As we do that, that inner awakening and energy and power will arise within us. The proof of the cake is in eating it. We can hear about all these things, but it's only when you sincerely practice, then you will understand what these spiritual teachings mean. I pray to the Divine to be gracious and to attract our mind from the external worlds to the internal world. Asatoma Satkamaya. From the temporary world outside, the Sat is inside. Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya. From the darkness outside to the light inside. Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. From the ever-changing world that is going to die, this body, to that immortal Atman that is within us. May the Divine Mother bless us all. This is a special time of the month, the Navaratri. The Divine Mother is especially gracious. We have to reach out to her, and she is ever happy and gracious to take us in her lap. Let us feel our protection, proper place in the Mother's lap, and feel that joy of that spiritual company. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.